The next matchup, again, this feels like another disappointing, rubbish game. Tennessee at Tampa Bay. Two good defenses, probably not going to be much on offense. Yes, I'm very negative about this slate, Tom, but can you spin any positives out of this game?
This game has so much sneaky upside. I don't know what kind of miserable day you've had, Rich, but like we've got
raining.
Will Levis, who has a really high high average depth of target, really high deep ball rate. We know he's going to push it downfield. Even last week when things weren't quite clicking for him, he had 7 completions of 10 plus yards, not to mention like the week he had against the Steelers in his debut, not against the Steelers, against the Cardinals in his debut. Falcons, third time lucky. That game where he just kept connecting. And yes, the Titans' offensive line, they've lost more starters, and it's going to be really difficult for Levis to keep having that time to push the ball downfield. But these are two pass funnel defenses. They're both better against the run, much better against the run than they are against the pass. Tampa Bay, they allow the most quarterback fantasy points per game. Tampa Bay allow the second most fantasy points to wide receivers, second most to the slot. Tennessee, they allow the 7th most fantasy points to wide receivers, the 4th most to the slot. This is a game where I look at it and I just go, okay, yes, these are two teams who are mediocre on defense and they're mediocre on offense, but they're both going to play to each other's level. And I think that you can look at this game and you can attack it either with Will Levis, DeAndre Hopkins, and Chris Godwin, or you could play it from the other side and go Baker Mayfield, Chris Godwin, and DeAndre Hopkins. But that is the kind of combination of stacks that I will definitely be looking to play on this game.
Yeah, I've got a call it a DFS theory question for you, Tom. When you're looking to attack games and go kind of heavy stack, obviously this game is quite a kind of a narrow point scoring option, should we say? You know, Tennessee, you're basically looking at Levis, Hopkins, Henry. There's not much else. Maybe a little bit of Tajay Spears if you want to get deep. Tampa Bay, you've got Mayfield, White, Evans, Godwin, and that's about it. Do you find yourself more attracted to this sort of matchup that's got 4 or 5 scoring options rather than a game like Cleveland-Baltimore where you could easily talk yourself into kind of 10 players that could potentially be fantasy relevant?
So we'll get to another game this weekend that I'm really excited about. And that's the Commanders-Seahawks game. And there, I think that it's hard to go wrong with that game. So in that kind of game, you're probably leaning into a bunch of chalk in that game and then having to look to get different elsewhere. Whereas this game, I think looking at ownership projections, the only player who's projecting highly is DeAndre Hopkins or Rachaad White. So I think you can attack this game and you've got a differential stack straight away. And then you compare that with chalk. You compare that with like your chalk running backs, your chalk mini correlations elsewhere. And you know that if your stack hits, as well as the chalk hitting, which, you know, that's what we're always counting on, then you're immediately going to be propelled up the leaderboard and have really good leverage on other games. It's tricky because Levis and Mayfield, they're not going to give you the 100-yard rushing games. You know, they're not going to give you, you'd be surprised if they rush for even a single touchdown or, you know, more than 30 yards. But at the price they're at, if they can deliver you a 20-point game or a 23, 24-point game, as well as hitting on that sort of correlation and stack, then you're absolutely going to be in the green very quickly.
Yeah, I think you're hating on Levis's rushing upside. 4 attempts per game, the most stats QB in the league. Like, I think there's some rushing upside that he's untouched on there.
And do you think he'll get more than 30 yards a game?
No.
Well, that's what I said, though.
Yeah, fair. We'll move on quickly, Tom.
So far, 13 yards across 2 games.
Okay, but the rush attempts are there. 4 rush attempts a game.